let's do the economy now, because this afternoon the depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi has significantly worsened the country's economic woes, leading to labor agitations, the collapse of some businesses and the relocation of others to more business-friendly countries. Now, this is according to an assessment by the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISE, on the 2024 mid-year budget review. Details of the report show that while the cedi has been stable over the past 3 months, or some weeks thereabout, there are still some areas that government needs to pay attention to. It has been the cedi has been more volatile in the first half of 2024 against major currencies compared to the same period in 2023. My colleague Isaac Kofi, who is with our research and data team here, joins me in studio with more. Kofi, tell us about the depreciation cedi and what ISE says about it.
Well, in terms of determining the strength of the local currency, there are always 3 major trading currencies that we try to peg the cedi's strength against. First one is the dominant one, which is the dollar. There's also the pound and the euro. Now, if you look into the ISE reports, all of these 3 major trading currencies, the cedi has lost significant components of its value against these currencies. If you take the dollar, for instance, 18.6% in the first half of the year, just first half of the year, the cedi has lost close to 19% of its value against the dollar. Okay. We're not even done with the year. So imagine that the second half of the year also follows the same trajectory. Then we're going to talk about some 40% reduction in the value of the cedi against the dollar. Now, we did some analysis depending on based on the data that ISE made available to us from 2022 to 2024. And if you look at the average depreciation of the local currency against the dollar on half-year basis, we are talking about 26% depreciation of the cedi against major trading currencies. Now, because of these huge depreciation figures, that is why ISE believes that you can then blame the exodus of businesses from the country and the poor performance of businesses and macroeconomic indicators performing worse in the first half of the year based on the performance of the cedi, because we know it's tied to so many things.
Well, the macro indicators aren't performing that day. We're told that we're making some gains.
Well, I mean, some gains, but you cannot compare it to, let's say, 4 years or 5 years ago, right after we've done the restructuring, the painful restructuring that we've done. Certain things are actually turning the corner, but it's not as they were, let's say, 5 years or 4 years ago. It's still, the economy is still taking time to heal. But one thing that in the economy's healing process, which is not really coming along, is the cedi.
Okay.
Now we know that previously, when you see the cedi depreciating by this significant component, the Bank of Ghana was allowed to come and do forex interventions. But now we are under an IMF program. They cannot take that unilateral decision because there are restrictions. They cannot come in to do the interventions like the way they did 2 years ago when we saw the dollar moving from 13 cedis to as high as 16 cedis. And by the time we were going to Christmas, November, December, it has fell from 16 cedis to 8 cedis, between 8 cedi and 7 cedi 50 pesos. That same cannot happen this year because of the limited forex intervention cap that has been placed on the Bank of Ghana as a result of our current IMF program. It is believed that allow the cedi to float and find its natural level. Many believe that the cedi's natural exchange is not the 7 cedis or 8 cedis. So allow the economy to find the natural position of the cedi, which many believe is around 19 cedis or even 18 cedis to the dollar, Kojo.
Interesting. Now, other people also believe that last time Bank of Ghana said they were going to crack down on people, who weren't authorized to deal in forex. I've heard someone say that we should restrict the easy access of people to the dollar.
I mean, dollar is a store of value. It's a currency. Why do you think people are going for it? Because they want value for their money. And anything that becomes a necessity, if you place restrictions, what happens is that people are going to do hoarding. And they'll end up selling that commodity at a higher price. And that's what Ghanaians don't want to witness. We don't want to experience the black market expanding in a very short period of time. Now, if you look into the ISA report, this was one of the recommendations they made to the Bank of Ghana, that they should go ahead with the restrictions you spoke about and the identification process they are trying to introduce, which they believe that can help stabilize the cedi and also clamp down on the black market that's currently available in the system. But one thing is that it's a supply situation. We've always been saying this. The fact that demand always outstrips supply, that is the reason why we have sort of like a peculiar situation with the exchange rate in terms of the dollar. Once Bank of Ghana finds itself in a very good position to do most of the auction, especially taking a bigger portion of the whole pie, supplying dollars to pharmaceuticals, to BDCs who are bringing in oil and all of that, that burden will be eased, and other importers can possibly find ways and means to get money from the system. We spoke the last time about the advance payment threshold that has been increased from $50,000 now to $200,000. That's a good move by the Bank of Ghana. But that will also depend on the capacity of the Bank of Ghana to supply dollars to the importers. So
is that what ISA is asking government to do?
Yes, that's part of the recommendations that they are making to government. They believe that the current requirement that if you are going to do an exchange, you need an identification, go through a centralized procedure, data collection process, tracking and tracing. It's important in knowing the true state of the cedi, the local currency, and also helping to stabilize the currency against.
So they're urging government to do what it says it will do to check this.
Exactly.
Quite interesting. Let's broaden the conversation on this particular topic by bringing in an economist who is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana, Professor Godfred Bokking. Prof, I'm grateful to you for joining. We also have policy analyst Peter Tekpe, who is joining us via Zoom here. Peter, I'm grateful that you've joined. Now, you've listened to the recommendation by ISA, but first off, let's start from this. What do you think is the right way for us to tame the depreciating cedi?
The depreciation of the cedi is something that requires a deliberate government intervention or policy that is aggressive enough to reduce the demand for the dollars. Until that is done, there is no way we can reduce the depreciation. Because look, our currency is cedis. And the reason why people are looking for dollars is because they need dollars to transact business, and mostly to import items. That is the main thing. And so until there's a deliberate policy from government to reduce the import of items such that it also reduce the demand, it's a simple logic. It's purely demand and supply. And so it doesn't matter that we are in IMF. Those who do import, who do business, they will still need USD. They will still need foreign currency. And our situation is worse now because we going to the Eurobond market, we are close. In fact, one of the main, supply, or one of the main sources of inflow of foreign currency is when government goes to the Eurobond market to go and borrow. Apart from that, we have the foreign direct investment. We are not even able to track the others. So mainly they depend on foreign inflow from Eurobond. So because we are shut to that market, we are facing these consequences now because we still import the oil, petroleum product, we still have to import. We still import the various food items, we still have to import. And all of it, we need these foreign currencies to be able to bring them. So for us to solve the problem, we need a deliberate policy that will reduce the demand for the currency. Once the demand is reduced, then it will no more become attractive for people to go in for the USD. Because the businessman or the businesswoman is not interested in depreciation percentage figures. Because he doesn't care. What he's interested in is that, what is the rate now? If it is from 7 and it went to 15, if it is from 10 and it's going to 16 now, that is where the businessman interest is, and not whether it is stable. If it is stable and it's still at 15 plus, for him or the businessman or businesswoman, it's still high. These are practical, basic issues that we need to address, and not talking about it is stable now and so we are okay. No, the businessman knows that he needs about 15 to 16 cedis to be able to get a dollar, over 20 cedis to be able to get a pound. What about the rest? That is what the businessman is interested in. So it requires a deliberate policy to reduce the demand for the foreign currency, and that is what government needs to do.
So you also do agree that this could be the reason why many companies are leaving the country?
Well, it's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons. One of the reasons because there are several factors that makes people see your country as very conducive for doing business. One of them is a political environment. Ghana has a very stable political environment. But the businessman or businesswoman has come to make investment in order to make profit. That is his bottom line. And so if there are conditions that are not making him make profit, cost of doing business, one of the reasons, is high. He brings in products. He pays high duty at the port. The same person, he produces, and then when he wants to sell, there's over 21% VAT is adding, tax is adding to it. And then you have another situation where people are using illegal means to bring the same product that this person is bringing through the port, and then he is selling it even cheaper than his cost of production. And so what option does he have? So for instance, there's a policy that oil, vegetable oil, for instance, should not come through the land borders. It should only by sea. But in a case where you have a lot of oil, like the recent Joy News expose, where you have a lot of it coming from the borders. Meanwhile, there's a policy that this should not come through the land borders. It should come through only by sea. But go to the market and see the vegetable oil that we have in the market. Majority of them. And so the one who has a factory, who is bringing in the product, who is producing, and he's paying huge taxes. This person comes in and doesn't pay any tax. So he ends up getting, even your cost is higher than his selling price. So what do? You definitely be forced to fold up and move out of the country. So there are several factors that are causing the businesses to move out of Ghana. And not only the currency depreciation, yes.
All right.
Even though it's one of them.
Let me bring in Professor Bokpin here. Prof, you've said once that the fundamentals of the economy are to blame for the depreciation of the city. And this quote is from you, says, it's the accumulation of policy failures and lack of vision that cluster at some point. So it's not like the city misbehaves on its own. It is the reflection of the fundamentals, and the fundamentals doesn't deteriorate in a week. It's the accumulation of policy failures over time, inaction, wrong action over time that manifest in the deteriorating of the fundamentals, unquote. Now, government and Bank of Ghana has brought out what they intend to do. They are now saying that if you are going to trade in forex, you need to go through a certain process. Is this part of the ways to check the depreciating cedi, or is this also part of the weakness in the policies that tend to then further lead to the depreciation of the cedi? So we'll bring back Professor Bokpin. Unfortunately, we've lost him on the line, but we'll get him so that we can continue with this. But let me bring in Peter Tekpe again. Peter, so the Bank of Ghana last week announced several measures that they want to undertake to check the cedi. One of them is that if you want to engage in forex transaction, you need to go through several processes. Is this one of the ways to check the depreciating cedi, or this is just like scraping the surface of a wound?
What the measures the central bank is putting in place are not new measures. Apart from the new platform they want to create, there are no new measures to say you have to provide your ID. These are not new measures. You notice that over the years, when the city begins to depreciate at a certain level, then they tend to remind us of these policies, of these control measures that they have in place. Okay. Also, these are regulatory procedures or regulatory requirements that are already existing. They are not new. It is because we have not gotten the political will, to be able to go ahead and make sure that they are implemented and they remain. So what the central bank is doing is not the solution at all. Because see, those who have the dollars already have it. And if today, let's look at what is very practical. Let's compare it with whether what Bank of Ghana is doing will solve the problem or not. Today, you and I, if you need to buy dollars, you know where to get dollars to buy without even asking for even any ID card or whatever the process. It's just a matter of those who need the dollars. They just sit in their homes and they call. They know who to call and they'll bring the dollars to them. How does Bank of Ghana track this? The one who is on Okada, who is moving around, he has dollars on him. How does Bank of Ghana track that? So the forest bureaus are in their rooms, are on the road. How do you control that? These are not solutions, practical solutions to reduce, to be able to tame the inflation. No, not at all. And so I think the Bank of Ghana needs to look at what actually are the causes of this. And I'm saying that if you bring out policy, let the policies work. If you have regulatory control, let the regulatory controls work. If that people should not be pricing in dollars, for instance, make sure that it works. Let it not come at a time, then when everything is okay, we go and relax. Then when things are getting bad, then we come back again to put it across again. No, these are ad hoc measures that will not solve the problem. And the solution we need to tame the depreciation of the cedi is not ad hoc. They are long-term solutions that needs to be permanent.
Okay, all right. Let me bring in Professor Bokpin here. Prof, I was saying earlier that one of the things you've said about how the cedi depreciates is the failure of policy. And I wanted to find out from you whether or not one of the measures the Bank of Ghana wants to implement to check the depreciating cedi is the process someone has to go through to deal in forex now. And I'm asking whether this policy is part of those, policy that which weakness, then lead to the depreciation, or this is quite a good policy that will check the depreciation.
Indeed, if you look at the policies they are putting in place, if we are not careful, we're rather going to make situations worse.
Okay, so Peter, I'm trying to bring in Professor Bokpin, who is joining us on phone, and Prof has been speaking about depreciation. Prof, first off, what's your thought about the plan of the Bank of Ghana to check how the cedi depreciates in restricting how people deal in forex?
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our cherished viewers and listeners. Yes, certainly, given the way there's been a little bit of a run on the cedi, the central bank has been concerned. At their last MPC meeting, the governor had indicated that they had put in place whatever measures, and they were not getting the result, given the negative sentiment and all of that. But clearly, black market has also played a role, and therefore we support them. We support them, and I think the earlier speaker was mentioning sustainability, because if you look at black market activities in Ghana, it didn't start today. It didn't start today. Look, when you go back to the late 70s and 80s, what we call forest bureaus today were actually black market in the late 70s and early 80s.
Okay.
To solve that problem, we decided to clothe them under the concept of forest bureaus so that they could be regulated as part of the former financial system. So that was our own way of dealing with the black market in the late 70s and early 80s. In our mind, we were eliminating black market, but what happened? Here we have them again. So the issue is the sustainability. But let me tell you, dealing with the black market will go beyond just the interventions from Bank of Ghana, because the black market is a former interface between the underground economy fueled by corruption and the former financial system. So they will need the necessary political backing. They will need all of us on board to be able to deal with the black market. Now, some of the measures that Bank of Ghana has also put in place have been a bit counterproductive, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Sometimes in their desire to formalize the former system by demanding Ghana card, restrictions and all of that, they actually provide oxygen to the black market to grow. That has also played a role, because the reality is that once, from a more fundamental point of view, we have failed in stabilizing the cedi, then merely clamp down on black market and all of them will not be sustainable. It may be observed more in breach than in compliance. Then again, you realize that when these measures begin to bite on the more equals, I'm saying they're more equal because we are equal, but there are more equals in this country. The powers that be, when it begins to bite on them, they will prevail on the central bank, because the central bank was seriously in dealing with the black market a couple of years ago. The question is, Who advised them to stop? Why did they postpone it? Why are they coming back to it right now? So, yes, we can make some progress by climbing down on the black market and all of that. But let's remember that that is not sufficient to address the more fundamental issue of dollar deficit in the system, weakening economic fundamentals, which has also happened at a time when we have elections and all of that. Let me ask you a question. Hello?
I'm here, Prof.
From the Afrobarometer survey, we are told that 9 out of every 10 Ghanaians believe that this economy is heading in the wrong direction. That is hard to deal with by merely dealing with black market. That is a confidence issue, right? So they don't even believe, majority of 90% of Ghanaians don't even believe that the economy is heading in the right direction. So for such people, they would do whatever that they have to insulate themselves from the harmful economic effects. And let me ask you, and go and check, in the last 3.5 years, there are powerful institutions in this country, including Bank of Ghana, that actively and consciously building their own economies independent of the general economy. So if you look at salary adjustment, if you look at allowances and all the largesse that come on, you can see that clearly institutions that have the economic fundamentals, that have the resources, are actually insulating themselves from the harmful general economy. That's what they are doing. Okay, so if you look at salary adjustment across certain state institutions, allowances and salary structure, clearly, this is an economy within an economy.
Okay.
That's what is happening.
So I mean, on the plan of the BOG to restrict forex trade, you are saying that making people go with the Ghana card and all of that is like putting a burden on them, and that would fuel the black market.
What I'm saying is that we have to do it progressively.
Okay.
The more we want to do the more we are driving businesses underground. Remember that the cedi for some time now has ceased to perform a basic function as a store of value. So whilst we want to address it from this perspective, we are also looking at the more fundamental issues. Don't forget, in 2014, Bank of Ghana took a drastic decision to even now forex accounts. In 2014, we've had more draconian measures in this country and all of that, okay? Recently, there was a communication, and I told people that it wasn't true, that they were going to withhold people's dollar accounts and all of that. There is uncertainty in the system, and if we are not careful, it will drive more businesses underground.
Okay.
So the communication, the approach, it has to be progressive. Otherwise, we may end up with a zero-sum game, if not negative.
Interesting. So as we want to check the depreciation of the cedi, what are the right measures that government should be taking now at this point?
One, again, I'll go back to the Afrobarometer. It's a confidence issue. Majority of Ghanaians don't believe that this economy is heading in the right direction. So they are taking measures individually, as a family, collectively, to insulate themselves. Given what has happened with the domestic debt scheme, look, and all that has happened with the situation of the currency, what we need to do now is a leadership that inspires confidence on the table.
Okay.
You will need that. Otherwise, it's going to be harder chasing people all over the place in the black market and the rest of them, because the reality on the ground is that there is very little confidence in this economy. Very little confidence in this economy. And that is a more fundamental issue. So you see that negative news, we studied this in empirical finance, right? So negative news exerts greater volatility in the market compared to positive news of the same magnitude. So consistently, what is coming out there is not positive news. If it is positive news, its impact is not as much as the negative news. And it's also an election year. Then again, look at it from a more fundamental point of view also. If you look at the IMF-supported program, by design, in itself tells you that the cedi will depreciate because this economy is worth over $75 billion. Okay, so for an economy that is worth over $75 billion, if you are designing a program for that economy, and all that the IMF is giving us is $3 billion over 3-year period, and then the World Bank is also giving us 1.6, and then release from external debt, it's woefully inadequate to cushion the country in terms of our FX demand. That is the truth. That's the truth. And whilst we have a benchmark in terms of keeping our international reserves at a certain level of import cover, that also limits the hands of the central bank from intervening in the market in terms of selling dollars on its account to moderate the depreciation. So you have to look at it broadly and see that, no, let's prepare for a reasonable level of depreciation, because that is what is to be expected from the market. Otherwise, if they want to intervene in the market by selling dollars, speculators will come and swallow it.
So does it mean we should have done a better negotiation with the IMF?
It's common knowledge now that the deal we got in terms of the financing arrangement is woefully inadequate. The IMF knows. And that is why every program review is practically tied to progress that we make from our external debt restructuring. It's as simple as that. I think that the IMF should also look at its lending framework and the funds available for low-income developing countries. It's as simple as that.
There's an article on the IMF website, and it's talking about how developing countries can deal with, depreciating currencies. It says, given the significant role of fundamental drivers, the appropriate response is to allow the exchange rate to adjust while using monetary policy to keep inflation close to its target.
That is what I just told you, that from the IMF-supported program, a certain level of depreciation is to be expected. It's in the program. Yeah. The IMF favors flexible exchange rates. You can estimate your dollar gap, and you can see from that perspective. And if you want to keep supporting the cedi, you will burn it through your international reserves, and you will be exposed.
Okay. Which means that the ways that we are dealing with it now is not the right way to get us out of where we are. We need to then turn around and take a different approach.
All the available tools at the disposal of the central bank are being utilized. So from the last MPC meeting, one could conclude that it looks as though the central bank is trying to give up or something, because they've implemented whatever measures they considered appropriate, and yet the cedi is depreciating. Wow. Is that okay? That won't worry the IMF that much. Okay, because a certain level of depreciation is to be expected. You have to build your reserves to a certain level of import cover and the rest of them. Above all, you should remember that it's an election year. In an election year, there's a little bit of uncertainty in terms of how people want to commit to portfolio flows to this country. They are probably going to adopt the attitude of wait and see. Even in Ghana here, people have dollars stashed in their homes. Don't ask me for evidence. You know how people are building the bedroom economy, right? As politicians, top business people. Beyond that, if people were trading on their dollar account and there's secularity, you will see a relative stability with the cedi. But because of the election uncertainty, there's very little inspiring leadership in the country. Everybody is adopting the attitude of wait and see. Okay. And then also you see that the money market, right? The yield on treasury bill is not offsetting enough. So look at it this way. I mean, basic calculation. If from year to date, the cedi had depreciated by, let's say, 19%, okay, and the 91-day treasury bill is offering 24, 25, on the average, you'll be far better off if you had dollars, keep it and pray that the cedi depreciates rather than converting it to cedis and investing it in treasury bill. You end up with a negative sum game.
If I understand you, it means that the worst days are yet to come.
Well, there's considerable uncertainty ahead of us. Let's prepare for that. I think let's assure ourselves that the cedi will take some bite. It's part of the growth process. It's part of the stabilization we want to achieve, because whilst we are trying to build our reserves, we are mindful that if we want to intervene in terms of market support, we're going to deplete our international reserves, and we don't have that much. Is that okay? So let's accept it. let Bank of Ghana also be consistent with some of their interventions in the market in dealing with the black market. It should not be a 9-day wonder.
Okay.
Let's also begin to see how government would also offer inspiring leadership on the table. It's not just the monetary side alone. We are also looking at maybe the fiscal side, and then how we manage the election. You know, and again here, my appeal will go to the Electoral Commission. We have to create reasonable predictability and certainty with how we are managing our election. Because it's not the first time Ghana is going into an election year. I mean, a couple of months ago, UK, they had their general election. I mean, and we didn't hear of ballot boxes being snatched. We didn't hear polling agents all over the place. So artificially, we create some kind of uncertainty which undermines the stability of the currency. So let's look at all these things, because it will not be the last election either. There should be some level of assurance and predictability of fair play, which allows people to even continue to run their business as though it's even not an election year. So that foreign investors, portfolio flows, foreign direct investment would equally operate without adopting the attitude of saying, let's wait and see. Well, you know, this country, they will kill each other. Let's see. If they finish the election and everything is okay, then they will move in. It happens.
Okay.
It happens.
Prof, stay with me. Let me bring in Peter Tekpe again. So Peter, listening to Prof, I'm becoming a bit scared that, you know, we are even in for the worst. How should government be dealing with this so that we minimize the impact it will have on citizens? You know that even in this current economy, people are struggling to afford 3 square meals a day. So if we are yet to experience the worst, how can government minimize the impact on all of us?
The sentiment by Prof, I think that, as he indicated, that we are aware that the country, I mean, we are not in a good shape, and it is, and so it is not more scary to people because people have become used to it. That is how come the Afrobarometer report saying that that's why you have 90% of people saying that, look, the economy is heading towards the right direction, because they are not seeing the impact of what we are saying, that the macro indicators are looking good. And so that as for the fear, is already there. What we need to do is how to manage the fear. And so if you are talking of what needs to be done to actually, I mean, bring this depreciation to a level that everybody will accept. Look, I indicated that what we need now is a practical way of dealing with the depreciation of the currency. We have gone past the situation where, for instance, we say we are going to fight black market, we are going to fight Forex Bureau. We have gone past that. We can't do that. We can't do that because they have outgrown. And so how do you fight them? You don't know where they are. So how do you even locate them and even fight them? We cannot even, but that's why I said that the measures the Bank of Ghana is putting in place are not practical measures that can solve the problem. It's rather put fear and panic in the system, and it will cause people to open Forex Bureau or currency exchange points in their homes and on the street more. So what we need to do is to rather look at measures in terms of policy that will reduce the reliance on the foreign currency. And the central bank knows where the demand are going. He knows what is being imported into this country. That the government knows what is being imported into the country and the forex that is needed for this. It is as simple as that, because your currency is cedis. And if people are going for foreign currency, it means that there is something that is causing that currency to be attractive. And so you have to look at that and tackle that aspect. That is the only way. Other than that, the dollar will never go down. People will tell you that, look, it is 15 today. It will never go down to 1 cedi. It will continue going up. So it is becoming attractive. So we need to come up with deliberate policy, as I indicated, to solve that. Now, another one is that pricing of goods and services in this country, central bank needs to be tough on that policy. All rent have been priced in the US, have been priced in foreign currency. Look at the port. People are paying, and when they say that they pay cedi at the port, they are paying dollars at the port. It's just that it's being converted into cedis. So if at the beginning of the year you brought in a cargo for instance, that you are paying 100,000 cedis. If you bring the same cargo now, you pay almost 200,000 Ghana cedis. If you brought the same cargo 2 years ago and you paid even 50,000 cedis, today you are going to pay 3 times the same cargo. Why? Because the duty at the port is being pegged at the USD. Meanwhile, we are in Ghana. So, and all these things are leading to the increase in demand for the foreign currency, because that is what is speculated. That is how people are using to measure the currency. So we need to come out with tough measures that will reduce, and these are the nitty-gritty aspects. You see, we are thinking that macroeconomic indicators, we are thinking that we have to bring a clamp down on forest bureaus, and we think that is a solution. They know that the problem is at the ground. That is why what is at the top is not making impact. So you are saying that the dollar is stable, cedi is stable. How is it stable? Because you are 15. So you think that it's been stable for some time now. To the businessman, to the businesswoman, or to the one on the ground, who is the one trading or dealing in this transaction, he says that at 15 or to 15 plus, it's still high. And you are saying it's stable. So we need to look at what is practical and then address it from the bottom and not at the top.
But Peter, those who are managing the economy, those who are trying to deal with the depreciation, don't they know what you're saying? What is preventing them from doing what to really deal with the depreciation?
You are right. They know the problem and they know the solution. The challenge is that the solution to the problems will not inure to their benefit.
Okay.
So let me give you a practical example. Today, if you have $10,000 and you change it into cedis, this is just a practical example for you to know, and you are going to do election. If you change $10,000 into cedis, how much are you going to get? It's not over 150,000 cedis.
Yeah.
So if you are the politician, will you be happy if the dollar goes down to 8 cedis or 5 cedis?
So you are saying so Peter, what you are saying is that they are being deliberate about this.
They know the problem. They know the solution is deliberate. That's what I'm saying, that we need a deliberate policy to reduce the depreciation, because they know. That's why I'm giving you this practical example. Because they know that I have a tenure of 4 years. If I do things that will make somebody else come and benefit and I will not benefit my time, what is the issue? That's why we need. This issue is about leadership. We need leaders who will be more focused on the Ghanaian economy than individual economy. And that is what is happening now. So if any decision you want to take, you and I don't come in. He looks at what is going to benefit from it.
Okay. All right, I'm grateful. Professor Bopin, before we go, Peter talked about that the fundamentals are looking good, but we don't. It's not, people are not feeling it. Why do we always say the fundamentals are good, but we can't feel it? What needs to be done so that the fundamentals looking good will translate into the pockets of the ordinary Ghanaian?
Inconsistency. Even though we are saying that the fundamentals are taking shape, they are not at the level where it will impact the ordinary Ghanaian. It's just like the way people are saying that, August looks like Ghana's winter. The weather is cold, but people's pockets are hot, right? So, and in Ghana, we know that, consistent in economics, prices are upwardly flexible and downwardly sticky. We do not expect that the city will recover its lost value to a certain level that perhaps we say is this. What is our inflation right now? It's 22.8%, right? Inflation in Cote d'Ivoire is less than 5%. Inflation in Burkina Faso, being ruled by a military leader, is less than 1%. It's less than 2%. And we are talking about Burkina Faso. And what is driving inflation down in Burkina Faso strongly has been food production. Check Ghana's food inflation, 24%.
Yeah.
So you cannot say this is macro level development that would impact Ghanaians. No, you come to think of it. If you are saying that prices on the average from June last year to June this year, prices have gone up on the average by 22.8%, you cannot call this stability. You can't call this stability. You can't call this stability when your monetary policy rate is 29%. The last time Bank of Ghana policy committee met, they kept the rate at 29%. You can't say this is stability. You can't say this is progress. Your Ghana reference rate is more than 27%. This is not stability. This is not progress. Ultimate lending rate is more than 30%. Come on, you can't say this is stability. So we have seen some progress, but we are not at the level where it will impact households and individuals and businesses. We are still not out of the woods yet. It's just that it was halftime and we claimed victory by saying we turned the corner. And as you can see, we've only turned one corner. There are several of them to be turned.
Well, quite interesting.
And finally, let me say this. Let me say this. This black market, if it were not benefiting powerful people in this country, it would have been eliminated long ago. It would have been eliminated long ago. This is sustained. Look, check our property industry, real estate. How come that this is a small economy? Look at people's income level. We are selling houses $1.3 million to $350,000. Do you know something? We have actually dollarized this economy. The only thing is that we don't want to make it official. That's all. We have dollarized the economy already.
So, Prof, you're also supporting that indeed because people in authority are benefiting, they are intentionally looking out for us to suffer.
Will it surprise you if you find out that, don't ask me for evidence, will it surprise you if you find out that some of the black market actually operate right in front of police stations? Will you be surprised?
I won't be.
Go and find out. You will be surprised. I'm telling you that any corrupt economy, okay, must have an interface that connects with that corrupt underground economy and the former financial or the former economy. And that point of link or that channel of link is the black market. It's as simple as that. Let me tell you something. Do you know that as at now, Ghana, we don't have a serious consumer protection law as a country. Why has it taken that so long? It's very basic. Any country that is corrupt, where investors have to pay their way, politicians take commissions before they give approval, and all of that. When they pay their way through that, they have to ensure that there's weak consumer protection mechanism so that they can charge whatever prices, whatever practices, and they get away with it. One of the things Ghana needs to do urgently is to pass the consumer protection bill.
Okay.
There's too much abuse in this country. It's more expensive living in this country than even Burkina Faso, than Cote d'Ivoire, than Kenya. Check food prices. Anybody at all can set up and charge any price in this country. And the consumer is always paying. The average Ghanaian, we're always paying. Which country is that? How is that possible? Look at the level of profit some companies can make in this country. Come on. Okay?
Prof.
We can't do all of this and suddenly expect that the cedi will just behave well on its own. Not at all. It will be as difficult as asking fish to climb a tree.
Prof, I'm grateful to you for your time this afternoon. Professor Godfred Bokpeng is Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana, and he's an economist as well. To you, Peter Tekpe, a policy analyst, I'm grateful as well that you could join us. This is A Pause.